Grow what you eat. I'm Naima Latif with today's 10-minute tip for how to grow your own food. We've got some wonderful food plants growing, and here in our beds where we have the tomato plants, ooh, looking good for sure. So we always have to check particularly after a rain, because things grow up and sometimes there are other kinds of plants that you need to remove, dandelions and such. We see a dandelion plant we're going to have to remove that could tend to compete for nutrients in the soil, and you don't want that. So you do need to monitor and make sure your plants are growing healthy and have the space that they need. Now here where our cucumbers are nicely spreading, we do want to make sure they have room, so we're going to remove all of these little bits of, sometimes might be dandelions or other native plants, we'll call them, plants that grow without any prompting and sometimes will pop up in distressed soil. So sometimes you have to even add to your soil some potting soil or other things to make sure you've got enough nutrients. Now right here we see we've got our carrots that are growing up nicely, and we know we added some onions and they've just started to grow, so we want to make sure that we give them space and remove some of these. Looks like a bit of clover that's popping through the soil. And we know that sometimes when it's very dry, you'll have certain kind of plants that grow up, but it's been pretty heavy with the rain, so we know that we are experiencing the growth of a lot of maybe seeds that were underneath the soil. So with our kale, that's been holding pretty steady, but we do want to take a look at it. We've got an app on the phone that can tell when a plant is perhaps going through a health challenge, so we can do what's necessary to repair it. And we've got our broccoli, and our garlic. We've got broccoli over here. We've got garlic growing next to the kale, and the garlic tends to look like clumps of grass, but this in fact is garlic. So we're gonna do a bit of clearing in our garden beds. And over here, well, it's wonderful to have a nice growth sprouting up. We've got some wonderful cucumbers that are doing well, and next door to them we've got the lettuce. Still small, but looks like it's absorbing the sunshine well after the rain. Now our mustard greens have really sprouted up, and you know that greens you can eat them as they grow, taking leaves perhaps from the outer edges and letting the inner edges keep growing. So we're doing very well with our mustard greens, also with our onions growing up nicely. So we see some great growth with the onions, and it's always good again to kind of remove some of the plants that may sprout up, because we don't want them to be competing for the nutrients in the soil. And next to them we have wonderful looking celery plants. Well, we'll need to do some clearing of them, but they're also absorbing great sunlight. But we do have a few little plants that need to be removed. We do want to make sure that they've got room to grow. And we have some more garlic here. Now we've also added someone to the family, and that is okra, right next to the garlic. But what we may do is move the garlic over a little bit to give the okra a little more space. And next to the okra, we've got some carrots that were struggling for a while, but now they seem to be doing well. That nice healthy rain helped them out a lot. And we also got a few intruders there, some things that we need to remove. Now, sometimes you have to add some potting soil, especially when you've got a new plant or if you've got a plant that may be struggling a bit. So we did add a little bit of potting soil as we planted our okra, and we're going to make sure that this plant here stands up and doesn't get trampled over. And next to our carrots, of course, we have the onion plants, and we've got a few extra plants surrounding them. Now, one of our onion plants seems to be struggling. We may have to replace it with another onion plant if we can't revive it. And next to the onions, we've got broccoli, which seems to be holding pretty steady. We want to make sure that our broccoli is doing well. Next to our cabbage, and our cabbage plants seem to be growing nicely as well. And next to our cabbage are the string beans. So these receive a bit of shade because they're right under the tree. We may need to kind of trim the tree a bit just to make sure that all of the plants, especially those that are near the fence, get enough sunlight during these peak sunlight hours. And then next to the green beans, we've got our squash, which is right next to this very aggressive burdock patch. So we're gonna really need to clear out some of the encroaching burdock and clover around our squash to make sure we give it the space it needs so that it can grow in a healthy manner. And that's one of the things that makes it necessary for you to check every day. Every day you need to check. It's just like we said, checking on your children. You wouldn't neglect your children days and days on end. You would make sure that you keep them well fed and give them plenty of sunshine and fresh air is what plants need, along with good fresh water, and sunlight does provide that. So we know that we're gonna need to clear out a lot of these little bits of unwanted plants before they take root and begin to aggressively take over the space that we've allocated for our food crops. Now, the good thing about that is underneath the soil, we see nice dark soil. So we want layers and layers of healthy soil wherever we're growing, and we'll add anything that we take out to our compost pile. So nothing is ever wasted. And the wonderful thing about growing what you eat, especially when you know everything that's growing, everything in this yard is edible. And so nothing will be wasted. And everything that we dig up today to remove will go to our compost pile. And then that will recycle the soil so we can add it to where we need good, dark, healthy, nutrient-rich soil. It's all a recycling process, and that's how Mother Nature works. And everything here is something that we can use for our health benefit.
This entire yard is a place of health, and that's what every yard should be. I'm Naima Latif. Grow what you eat. We'll see you next time.